My eldest sister-in-law got divorced and left home, and moved directly to my house with her 2 sons. She is not in good health and does not go to work. My 2 sons also bully my daughter every day. Mother-in-law only cries and cries. My husband will only be a good person. I can only defeat magic with magic. When I came home from get off work, I heard my daughter's sweet and miserable cry at the door. When I opened the door, I saw a room full of people. My sister-in-law's 2 sons were standing nearby with innocent faces. When Cheyenne saw me coming back, she threw herself into my arms. "Mum," they snatched my toys and hit my hands. After the little guy finished speaking, he stretched out his hand with a red mark pitifully. I picked her up and patted her back gently. "Sweetie, Mummy is here for you." With a slight smile on my face, I said to the 2 children, "You are brothers and men. You have to protect your sister and don't bully her." The 2 nodded repeatedly and promised not to bully Cheyenne again. I didn't know what to say, so I turned to my mother-in-law and said, "Mum, why didn't you tell me in advance so that I could buy some good wine and food?" My mother-in-law looked at me sheepishly, and I went to the kitchen to cook while you guys chatted first. I looked at my sister-in-law who had a serious look on her face. 2 kids just bullied my Cheyenne, and she didn't stop them at all. He said with a smile on his face, "Why did my sister lose weight? Why didn't your brother-in-law come with you?" The woman hesitated and said, "I'm divorced." Then I took my 2 sons to the sofa in the living room to watch TV. Scene after scene emerged in my mind, scenes of getting along with her in the past. So, why did she come to my house as a safe haven after the divorce? They didn't even bother to discuss it with me. The 2 families bought this house together. Just as I was about to rush over and ask about the situation, my husband came back. I handed Cheyenne's hand to my mother-in-law and told her not to let others bully me. I took my husband back to the bedroom. "Lin Honggyuan, please explain to me clearly what is going on. Why don't you discuss it with me in advance? Do you still treat me as your wife?" The man looked at me with apologetic eyes, and he sighed deeply. "Wife, I'm afraid you won't agree. My sister has left home and is still in poor health. How can she survive with 2 sons? I threw his hand away and said angrily, "My health is not good, I have no ability to raise children, and I want both children. Is your brain okay? Doesn't their father plan to give any child support? Is divorce your sister's problem? Isn't the child her husband's biological child?" There are 100,000 reasons in my head now. How could such a stupid woman exist? "Mi Hayan, can you have some sympathy? That is my biological sister, who carried me on her back when I was little." I stared at him. I had no sympathy? Who can sympathize with me? Lin Honggyuan looked at me with a wrong expression and said sarcastically, "Her husband has someone outside, and he is very difficult to get along with. She is worried that her children will be bullied." The man did not want to pay child support because his sister took the initiative to ask for the child. I looked at him like a fool. The man said helplessly that his sister only told us after she divorced him that it was too late to stop her. She said she wanted to prove to the man that she truly loved him. Oh, what proof? It only proves that she is a fool. I looked at him coldly. "Lin Honggyuan, your monthly salary is only 8,000 yuan, and you have to pay for the mortgage to support 4 people. I can't afford to support your sister and her 2 sons. The man held me in his arms and patted my back gently. "Wife, let's put aside the matter of saving money to buy a car for the time being. When my sister gets better, she will go to work." So, is he planning to clean up this mess? My heart feels so cold. Looking up at him, I will not take out a penny from now on. Just use 8,000 yuan to support this big family. By the way, mortgage payments are not allowed to be overdue. This is not how a good person behaves. He must be made to feel the cruelty of reality. I hugged Cheyenne and left the house. I found the daycare I had wanted to send her to for a long time. Cheyenne is over 3 years old, and I want her to play more with children and be more outgoing. Now that there are so many children at home, I am worried that she will be bullied, so she might as well come to the nursery to play. I paid the tuition fee and agreed to send it over tomorrow morning. I took Cheyenne to have a meal, a big meal that I usually wouldn't bear to eat. Bought her some beautiful dresses and some new toys. The little girl is very excited now. When I got home, a group of people were watching TV in the living room, which was filled with various snacks, and garbage was everywhere on the floor. I am a half-grown boy and a poor man. I am too lazy to join in their excitement. Fortunately, all the previous money is in my card. $8,000, let's see how long they last. Nodding as a greeting, he took Cheyenne into the bedroom to wash up. As the door closed, I heard their conversation. Cheyenne seems very unhappy, otherwise, I'd better leave. Sister, don't think too much. Cheyenne is a very nice person and will accept you after a while. My daughter, you have suffered. Mum has something to eat and will never starve you. I'm already so sad. Why can't she think about me? What a big white lotus. This kind of home is not what I want. Cheyenne looked at me nervously and said in a milky voice, if Mum is not angry, Cheyenne will be obedient. My eyes were red. I couldn't give up so quickly. I could try to save my life again. How can Cheyenne be left without a father? She wants to live happily. There are only 2 rooms in this suite, and Cheyenne lived with her mother-in-law 2 years ago. Now we are a family of 3, living in ne room. I don't want to know how they live with the other 4 people. I put Cheyenne in the middle, just right. Now I don't want to be too close to Lin Honggyuan. At around 11 o'clock in the evening, he slept next to her. Wife, I'm sorry for making you feel wronged. Wife, I am the only man in the family. How can I let my sister live on the street? Don't worry, wife. Even if I don't eat or drink, I will still support you. My sister is very nice. If you don't know her now, you will know her later. If I work harder and harder, I will let you live a good life. Wife, I'm going to find a part-time job tomorrow. He rambled on for a long time. Should we pay for all this? Why? I really want to wake him up. But I know his stubborn temper and his sense of responsibility. At the beginning, this was not the only thing I liked about him. The next day, I opened the door and saw a mess all over the floor. The 2 little boys were lying on the sofa, sleeping with their arms and legs spread out. The whole house is like locusts passing through. In the past, I would tidy up when I had time. Now, I am just blind and can't see anything. Seeing her mother-in-law busy in the kitchen, she tried her best to suppress her anger and said softly, Mum, I will send Cheyenne to the nursery. My sisters and the others come here once in a while, so you can take them out to play. It's best to play around and then leave. Her eyes suddenly turned red and she whispered, Cheyenne, do you really dislike them that much? It's only the 2nd day and you have to drive them away. My brows furrowed into a frown. If I drive them away, will they leave? I'd like to rush if I can. Tears fell from her eyes, and she kept wiping her tears with her hands. At this time, my husband came over. He quickly asked, Mum, what's wrong with you? Then she turned to look at me. Cheyenne, don't tell me Mum. I agreed to let them come. I looked at the warm scene of their loving mother and filial son with cold eyes. I didn't realize before, but now I suddenly realized that my mother-in-law is also a white lotus. No wonder, like mother, like daughter. Now, I seriously suspect that my husband Lin Honggyuan is not a good person either. I didn't say anything to her, let alone hit her, believe it or not. After that, he left home with Cheyenne. Cheyenne stays in my arms obediently. Mum, I will breathe for you and it won't hurt anymore. Her gentle breath on my face warmed my heart. Cheyenne is awesome. Mummy doesn't feel any pain. Please listen to the teacher obediently later. Mum will pick you up early in the afternoon, okay? The little guy nodded obediently and kissed me on the cheek. Mum, I will be good. Come pick me up early. How can I bear to let such a sensible daughter lose her father? When I arrived at the company, I quickly placed an order for several invisible cameras. Even though Cheyenne went to daycare, she still spent a lot of time at home. I'm worried that they will bully Cheyenne. I took the time to read countless guides online. All in all, when you encounter White Lotus, you must use magic to defeat magic. I used to be too stiff and I have to change it. After get off work, I went to pick up Chyanshan from the nursery. Then I went to buy some cold dishes, as well as red wine, beer and white wine. Today's task is to get my sister-in-law drunk and make her tell the real reason for the divorce. I simply don't believe the reason they said. As a father, how could he let his son wander around without a fixed abode? I've met him a few times, and he doesn't look like someone looking for a mistress at all. There were definitely other reasons for their divorce. Before entering, I tried my best to put on a fairly sincere smile. When I opened the door, I saw a group of people jumping around the house and garbage everywhere. The smile on his face almost didn't stop. "Mum, put your things down quickly." The sound of Chyanshan talking made me wake up quickly. I looked at them and said with a smile, "Yes." They was too sudden and I didn't entertain them well. I bought some good wine and food today and will eat more tonight. Everyone was a little confused by my sudden change of attitude. I didn't care at all. I went to the kitchen to make a special dish and the meal would be served later. After 3 rounds of drinking, the sister-in-law relaxed completely. She slammed the table hard and started telling her story. "Brother, I feel so miserable. I've been with him for 15 years, and he divorced me just like that. Lin Honggyuan also drank a lot today. He said angrily, 'If you dare to bully my sister, I will kill him now.'" After the man finished speaking, he got up and went to the kitchen. I quickly stopped him and said softly, "Don't worry, let your sister explain things clearly. If it is really his fault, we will go to him to settle the score together." He sat back obediently. "Sister, if you have any grievances, tell them all today. Don't keep them in your heart." The woman picked up the cup, took a sip of white wine, and said quietly, "In order to be with the vixen outside, he secretly took a paternity test. How could he not believe me so much? Xiaoyuan, you are a man. After so many years of relationship, does it matter whether you are biological or not?" Lin Honggyuan wanted to say something, but he couldn't say it. He felt extremely uncomfortable. He picked up a bottle of beer next to him and drank it in one gulp. He wiped the beer from the corner of his mouth with his hand and said with red eyes, "Sister, are they the biological children of his brother-in-law?" Lin Wanqiu pointed her finger at him and her voice trembled. "You also think it's important whether you're close or not, right? Cultivating kindness is better than generating kindness. They will definitely treat him well in the future. Why do they have to divorce? Shouldn't men be more generous?" I was so shocked that I couldn't speak, and stared at Lin Honggyuan. If he had bad views, I would definitely tell Ian to stay away from him in the future. I thought she just liked to take advantage and stir up trouble, but I didn't expect her views to be so distorted. Lin Honggyuan slumped on the chair and muttered softly, "How could my sister do such a thing? I don't believe it, I don't believe it." Lin Wanqiu sighed deeply and said with a helpless look, "You really can't blame me. He brought his good friends to his house as a guest. I don't want anything to happen if he drinks too much." After a while, Lin Honggyuan looked at his sister and said seriously, "Sister, let's live a good life in the future, bring them together, and stop thinking about everything." Lin Wanqiu nodded repeatedly, turned to me and said, "Hey Ian, it was my fault in the past. I shouldn't have said bad things about you everywhere. I shouldn't have said that you gave birth to a loser. I shouldn't have." Heard this, my heart ached. My sweet, how could Tian be so slandered by her? I can't shake my head and forgive her for everything she did before. Yuzi has a sworn hatred. During the confinement period, she brought her 2 sons to humiliate me whenever she had nothing to do, which made me often cry. How could I forgive her so easily? I said coldly, "From now on, you can live a good life by yourself. Men are unreliable, and strengthening yourself is the way to go." I don't know if she can hear it, but this is indeed what I mean. A long silence followed, and now I know the reason, but it doesn't seem to be of any use. For 2 children, it was impossible for others to provide child support, so it would be fine if they didn't ask her for money. Judging from her tone, she probably knows who the child's biological father is, and wonders if she can hold him accountable. What nonsense are these? I sighed and went to the kitchen to pour them 2 glasses of milk to relieve their hangover. On a rare weekend, I fell asleep in a daze and heard sweet and pitiful cries. I was so shocked that I immediately got up and ran out quickly. In the living room, Cheyenne was lying on the ground, blood flowing from her head. I grabbed the flesh on my body hard, trying to stimulate myself who was about to faint. My mother-in-law stood beside me stupidly, and the 2 boys looked at me with innocent faces. It wasn't us, it was my sister who fell down. I quickly dialed 120 and shouted to my mother-in-law, "Call your son and ask him to come back quickly." It was agreed last night that he would go out to find a part-time job, and he had only been out for less than half an hour. I knelt on the ground and stared at Cheyenne blankly. She had fainted. He didn't dare to move at will to check her injuries. I could only put my finger on the tip of her nose frequently to check her breathing at any time. A deep sense of powerlessness swept through my body, and the deep self-blame was about to overwhelm me. I can't remember how I got up and followed the medical staff away. I just do what they say mechanically, like a machine without emotions. The doctor told me that Cheyenne had suffered excessive bleeding, was now unconscious, had dilated pupils, and needed a craniotomy as soon as possible. I kept signing and handed over all the money I had saved for 2 years to buy a car to the hospital. Lin Honggyuan followed me silently, his eyes filled with self-blame. The operation lasted 5 hours and 3 minutes, and I never left the door. These few hours passed like years, and I didn't dare to blink. The moment the doctor came out, I rushed over. "Don't worry, the operation was successful and you can wake up after the anesthesia is over. In the future, you should pay attention to keep warm, avoid colds, and ensure adequate sleep. Maintain a good mood and avoid excessive stress." I kept saying thank you and carefully remembered the precautions the doctor said. Lin Honggyuan, he held me in his arms and patted my back constantly. "Wife, it's okay, it's okay. I will always be at your side." Push him away hard, slap bang, slap him in the face a few times. "When I need you, I'm not around. I asked you to take Cheyenne to breakfast, and that's how you took it. Don't you know how cruel those 2 are?" Patting his chest and breathing slowly, he continued, "If Cheyenne leaves, I will burn you all with fire, and everyone will be buried with her. When we get home, it's best not to see them again, otherwise, there will be consequences. If they don't leave, we will divorce. Either they get out, or you get out together." The man lowered his head and remained silent. I don't have a good impression of the Lin family now. Sitting next to Cheyenne's hospital bed, he gently held her little hand. Looking at the thick gauze on her head, I couldn't help but shed tears. This is the treasure I hold in my hands, and now I am lying quietly on the hospital bed. "Cheyenne, it's all Mom's fault. I will never let you get hurt again in the future." I kept talking in her ear, as if this would make her feel more at ease. A few hours later, Cheyenne opened her eyes and said pitifully, "Mum, they were the ones who pushed me down. They said I was a loser and that house belonged to them. They told me to get out." My anger level rose sharply, and I turned to look at Lin Honggyuan, asking those people to wait for me to go back. "Your sister is not a good person to say such things. She was taught all kinds of stuff. No wonder her husband wanted to divorce her." The man's eyes immediately turned red. He stood up and punched the wall. Cheyenne cried out, with a look of fear on her face. I hugged her gently and wanted to go outside. The doctor just said not to be too nervous. "Get out of here and think about what to do about this. I am New Hulu now. Me Heian, no one can stop me from protecting Cheyenne. All uneasy factors must be killed in the cradle." A week later, Cheyenne was discharged from the hospital. During this period, no one from the Lin family came to visit once except Lin Honggyuan. Not even an apology, like it never happened. Capital A. After thinking for a long time, I took Cheyenne back to my parents' home. I was worried about her safety in that home, and the environment was not suitable for recuperation. When my mother asked me what was going on, I could only give a rough idea. "Hey Ian, you have to know that your father, me, and your brother are not dead. How could it be possible for you to suffer so many grievances alone? We will go there together later. She held my hand and said seriously, live life as long as you can, and come back if you can't. Mum will use the pension to support Cheyenne. My eyes were red. That man was the man I wanted to marry in the first place. Now the whole family has to clean up this mess. I returned home in a hurry with a group of people. When I opened the door, I saw people laughing and joking inside. Looking at them coldly, I thought of my daughter lying on the hospital bed and them jumping happily in my home. Is it necessary for such a home to exist? Seeing so many people arriving, they were obviously stunned. The mother-in-law made an awkward smile. Hey Ian, why did you come back suddenly? In-laws, why didn't you tell me before you came, so that I could buy some good wine and food to entertain you? Lin Wanqiu said from the side. Hey Ian, this is your fault. If there is anything, please discuss it first. Inviting parents to come has several meanings. I sneered and said, I just run to my parents' house when something happens. Didn't I learn from you now? You take your 2 sons and give my family a sweet apology. How could you be such a bad mother at such a young age? Lin Wanqiu said with a smile. Isn't it normal for children to play together, push and fight? Just ask Cheyenne to pay more attention in the future. My own mother rushed out from the side and slapped her to the ground. Sorry, my hand slipped just now. This is just a joke between adults. Please be careful to avoid it next time. The mother-in-law's eyes were full of tears, and she quickly ran over to sup. Lin Wanqiu, she said pitifully. Hey Ian, how could you do this, leading a group of people to bully us old, weak, sick and disabled while my son was working outside? I looked at her doubtfully. Didn't I just say that? It's because my hand slipped. That's how bullying works. Giving the old man a look, he quickly grabbed a kid. I took the yellow Vitex from my father. Since you don't teach them well, you can only let me, my aunt, do it for you today and help you discipline them. Snap, slap, slap. The whip hit the child's butt, and the sound of ghosts crying and howling resounded throughout the room. I said coldly, who asked you to recommend Cheyenne? Who taught you to lose money? Who said this house will be yours from now on? After only a few lashes, he cried and said, woo woo woo, my mother said that. I gave him a few more severe whiplashes before letting him go. Turning to look at Lin Wanqiu, why are you so vicious? No wonder your husband wants to divorce you. You deserve all this. You are also a woman. Are you always losing money now? Coming back to eat your old age after a divorce is worse than losing money. Lin Wanqiu glared at her son and put on a smile. Sister-in-law, you are a bit of a coward. How could I do such a heartless thing? Teaching them to push Cheyenne is even more impossible. The old man couldn't stand it anymore and said loudly, what the hell is this? Can you beat me? Humans are talking and a dog is barking. I looked at her fiercely. To this day, this woman is still quibbling. I slapped her with my backhand a few times, and she looked at me in disbelief. It is the fault of a son to not teach his mother, so these slaps are nothing. My Cheyenne was almost killed by a selfish woman like you. My mother-in-law came over, stopped in front of her, and looked at me with tears on her face. Hey Ian, hit me. I am her mother and I suffer for her. Cheyenne is your daughter, and you feel sorry for her. Kyuki is a piece of flesh that fell from my body. Can I know? Feel pain? My mother stood up and said loudly, are my parents trying to push Heian into a position of being unkind, unjust, loyal and unfilial? She is my daughter, and I cannot let her be wronged. We 2 old ladies are gesticulating here today. The mother-in-law immediately cried loudly, Heian, am I not good to you? I have served you for 2 or 3 years, and this is how you treat me. The cry was deafening and extremely miserable. Those who hear it are sad and those who hear it cry. At this moment, Lin Hongyian opened the door and came in. His face was covered with sweat and he was breathing heavily. Parents, what are you doing standing there? Sit down and talk. Turning to Lin Wanqiu, she said, Sister, go boil water and pour tea. After seeing them all sitting down, he knelt straight on the ground with a bang. Mum and Dad, it's all my fault, please beat me. It's my fault for not being optimistic about Chyanshan. It's my failure to live up to Haeyeon's expectations for me. It's my fault for not taking good care of my nephew. My dad snorted coldly. What's the use of beating you? You go and get divorced now. Chyanshan belongs to us. The down payment for this house was half for the whole family, but now it is sold and half for each person. We will not take advantage of your family, and you cannot bully us. Lin Hongyeon looked at me pitifully. Haeyeon and I had such a good relationship, how could we divorce so easily? Don't they all say that they would rather demolish 10 temples than ruin a marriage? I looked at the two little boys next to me who were still smiling. They didn't feel that they were wrong at all. He said coldly, take the ID and leave now. Lin Hongyeon knelt and moved to my side. Honey, can you bear to leave Chyanshan without a father? What should she do if she is bullied at school? I will ask my sister to move out immediately. Can you give me a chance? My brother smiled coldly and looked at him with disdain. It is better not to have a father who does nothing. Don't worry, my uncle will protect her. Stay where you are. Lin Hongyeon looked at me and said nothing. He kept kowtowing to my parents, and blood flowed from his forehead. When the mother-in-law saw this scene, she quickly walked over and knelt down beside her with a thud. My parents moved away quickly. If they suffered this kneeling, they would probably lose several years of their lives. Mum walked over and wanted to help her up. She sighed and said, "What are you doing? Get up and talk." The mother-in-law couldn't get up, so she grabbed Lin Hongyeon, who continued to kowtow. "I beg you, old lady, can you give us a chance?" Dad glanced at me and said seriously, "I'll give you one last chance. We'll take Chyanshan first. Lin Hongyeon will get divorced if she doesn't move out in a week." Brother gave Lin Hongyeon a hard look. "If you dare to bully my sister again, I will cut you off. It is unmanly to kneel down whether you come or not." Mum snorted coldly, hoping this is the last time. "Don't let me beat you too." She pointed to her mother-in-law, who was still kneeling on the ground. After they left, I turned back to the bedroom. Marriage must be divorced, and revenge must be avenged. A few minutes later, Lin Hongyeon knocked on the door and came in. With tears in her eyes, she said pitifully, "My brother just told me that we will move out within a week. To be honest, our old Lin family owns half of this house. My surname is Lin, why can't I live in it?" I was shocked and speechless by her shameless remarks. I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen such shameless people. I said coldly, "I'm sorry, you have to move. At worst, if you get divorced and sell your house, you will still have to move." Lin Hongyeon curled her lips and continued to say shamelessly, "For the sake of my brother's happiness, I will endure it. You go with us tomorrow to find Lin and Ruru's biological fathers. He is still very rich, and we worked hard to get a house back." There was a sneer on the corner of my mouth. "You don't have to be so generous. I will divorce your brother. After paying off the mortgage on this house, there is at least 800,000 left. You, Lao Lin, can share 400,000. Anyway, Lin Hongyeon has no son, so these can all belong to your son." Lin Hongyeon looked at me thoughtfully, then waved her hand. "How could I let my brother get a divorce? Tomorrow we will go find their biological father together." Just as he was about to refuse this unreasonable request, he suddenly wanted to see how busy she was. Good. He spat out these words coldly and sent her away. At noon the next day, a group of people went to a company. Lin Hongyeon went to the front desk to negotiate. A few minutes later, a tall man came out. He frowned and said coldly, "What do you mean? Do you want to cause trouble? This is an office space." Lin Hongyeon walked out slowly from the end. She didn't dare to look into the man's eyes at all. He lowered his head and whispered that he had taken a paternity test and the child was not his. "Now that we are divorced, you are responsible for these two children." There was a sneer on the corner of the man's mouth. "What does your divorce have to do with me? Whether the child is his or not has nothing to do with me. I have a wife. Don't ruin my reputation, otherwise, I will make you miserable." Lin Hongyeon pulled me and walked to his sister's side. This was his plan to support his sister. I looked at them coldly, with a smile on my lips. Lin Wangqiu straightened her back immediately. Their biological father is you. Regardless of whether you have a wife or not, you must be responsible. The alimony that should be paid must not be less. Otherwise, I will come to the company to find you every day. If you are in a hurry, it is not impossible to find your wife. The man's face suddenly became full of black lines, and he stared at Lin Wangqiu. Don't you have any idea why you took me home for dinner? There's no use looking for me, you'd better go back. And look for him. You can't take another step here in the future. I heard something between the lines. There was something wrong with Lin Wangqiu's ex-husband. After a while, a group of security guards came up and surrounded us. The mother-in-law just lay on the ground and couldn't get up, shouting loudly, "Someone, help, hit someone." Several security guards were helpless against her, and it was the first time I saw this amazing move of hers. The man's brows were so furrowed that he could kill a fly, and his colleagues kept looking this way. "Security guard, lift her up and throw her out." He turned around and looked at Lin Wangqiu. "Don't mess with me, don't force me to do anything," she swallowed secretly and said unwillingly, "just wait for me. If you don't let me have an easy time, no one else will." The security guard carried my mother-in-law outside the office building, and we stood beside her in disgrace. I turned to look at Lin Wangqiu. "What else are you hiding? Tell me everything. Otherwise, no one will be able to help you." Lin Wangqiu glared at me and said innocently, "I didn't hide it, but for a while, he liked to bring the man back for dinner and drinks. I don't drink well, so after a few drinks I became drowsy, as if I might have done something wrong to him." Lin Hongyan kept rubbing his eyebrows and put a few band-aids on his forehead. He looked at Lin Wangqiu with a look of deep confusion in his eyes. Her mother-in-law looked at her with a heartbroken look. "Daughter, tell me honestly, are there any other men out there?" Lin Wangqiu shook her head repeatedly. "No, no, no. Although I have a bad temper, I have always been a clean and self-sufficient person in this regard." The corners of my mouth kept twitching, and I almost laughed. "Both sons belong to others, and they are still clean and accommodating people. The standard of classification is really that the door is open to the outrageous I said coldly. "I suddenly brought my friend's bar CK for dinner, and then you got pregnant. Don't you think there's something wrong with this? Isn't he good? Or are you infertile and borrowing seeds from others?" Lin Wangqiu looked ahead blankly when she heard what I said. 10 minutes later, Lin Wangqiu suddenly woke up. She held her mother-in-law's hand and said angrily, "Mum, all this may have been planned by him, and he may really be infertile. What do I do? What about my child?" The woman was crying while talking, very sad. Lin Hongyan whispered, "Sister, you have been together for so many years, why have you never found out? If you think about it carefully, if it is true, we will go to him to settle the score now." I stood by and watched them. Even if it was true, would he admit it? Even if he was beaten to death, he wouldn't admit it, and Lin Wangqiu couldn't produce any evidence, so it was all in vain. However, her liveliness must be watched with joy. Lin Wangqiu said coldly, "He did it so naturally. We have been together for almost 20 years, and we can't even think of where to go. I am now certain that he did it on purpose." Her mother-in-law held her hand and kept comforting her. "My daughter, you have been wronged. Wait a minute, Mum, I will definitely help you get revenge. At my age, if I beat him, would he dare to fight back? If he dares to fight back, I will just lie down and all you have to do is cry loudly." She thought for a moment and said faintly, "Let's go back and take Lin Lin and Ruru, and then go over to make trouble together. Let each of them hold a thigh and cry non-stop. This group of people is really terrifying. I have never encountered such things before, and I never saw that my mother-in-law is such a scheming person. Regardless of whether Lin Wangqiu moves out or not, this marriage is finalized for me. I don't want Xianshan to grow up under their influence." Lin Hongyan took my hand and said eagerly, "Honey, can you ask your uncle to bring a camera and help us scare him? Nowadays, people are afraid of media exposure. He is also a boss, so he will definitely be vain. This man is really willing to do anything for his sister." Suddenly I thought of a way to leave this house, and I slowly nodded in agreement. Only in this way will they happily agree to divorce. Otherwise, I will definitely be shameless and keep pestering him. Lin Wanqiu brought a group of people to her ex-husband's office. She led us domineeringly and rushed directly to the manager's office. The front desk couldn't stop him even if he wanted to, so he quickly dialed the number. My brother and I walked at the end. He gave me a reassuring look and followed the whole process with his camera. Opening the office door, a man and a woman were chatting and laughing inside. Lin Wanqiu's eyes were red with anger. She said loudly, "Jia Junming, I have found out that you are infertile. You deliberately brought your friends back and got me drunk. You are worse than a beast." A bunch of gossips standing at the door were shocked, looking at the tall, handsome, mature and steady middle-aged man with disbelief. Lin Wanqiu sneered and said, "Return the house to me now, and the joint property of husband and wife must be divided equally. There is no use in keeping a guy that you like, but you are useless. You are just garbage that I don't want to throw away." Jia Junming looked at her coldly, with no trace of love in his eyes, and even filled with hatred. "Lin Wanqiu, whether you have the ability to have children or not is not something you just say you don't have. I have raised your 2 children for so many years for nothing. What's wrong with charging some interest? Moreover, this is your own consent to leave the house." He glanced around and then saw my brother who was recording the video. He walked over and closed the door, blocking out his nosy colleagues. He said to my brother, "Brother, this is a private matter, can you save your face and stop recording it?" My brother smiled and said, "I'm sorry, I am the media specially invited by Ms. Lin to report this matter truthfully." Jia Junming sighed and said quietly, "I originally wanted to handle such a disgraceful matter quietly. All of this is Lin Wanqiu's fault. Since they want everyone to know so much, there's nothing I can do about it." My mother-in-law stood up and said with trembling fingers and a hurt look on her face, "Xiao Ming, how could you treat my Qiu like this? You must give me an explanation today." After she finished speaking, she went to Raja Junming with a hint of calculation in her eyes. The man blocked it with his hand, and then saw her closing her eyes and falling to the ground. The shrill cries of pain frightened the people outside. Lin Wanqiu knelt down next to her mother and kept howling. The 2 children, after seeing the look their mother gave them, quickly ran to Jia Junming's side. One person is holding each other in one thigh. "Dad, help us, we have no place to live, no money to eat, and have been hungry for 2 days. Dad, don't abandon us, woo woo woo." Lin Hongyian stared at Jia Junming. I stood next to my brother with a sneer on my lips. My husband is definitely not as honest as he appears. How much better would he be if he lived in such a family for a long time? My brother comforted me with his eyes and told me not to think so much. Jia Junming instantly understood that he had been raped today, and the camera kept recording it. He laughed coldly. "Lin Wanqiu, I originally thought that I could give you appropriate compensation for the sake of the couple's relationship. Now if you come here and want a house, you can. See you in court." My mother-in-law was lying on the ground crying miserably. I could guess that she felt a little regretful now and should have beaten Jia Junming before lying down. Lin Wanqiu faced the camera and said while crying, "Why am I so miserable? Not only are men not good enough, they also bring their friends back to bully me. This kind of man must be exposed and he cannot be allowed to harm other female compatriots." Jia Junming took out his phone and dialed 110 directly. "Since you can say it so well, go to the police station and say it." A group of people were taken to the police station. In this case, they could only do mediation work. After all, Lin Wanqiu couldn't produce evidence. Several people were given a good education before being released. Jia Junming said coldly, "Forget it this time. If you dare to do it again, I won't be polite." "What the hell, I cheated on myself and you still say I'm not good enough." Everyone returned home in a hurry. They had been working hard all day and got nothing out of it. I said calmly, "Lin Hongyian, meet you at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I have listed this house with an agent. It should be sold within a few days. You guys should quickly find a house and move. He looked at me with a puzzled look on his face. Honey, what nonsense are you talking about? We are fine. Why should we get divorced? My mother-in-law held my hand. Hey Ian, didn't we agree? This marriage is not divorced for the time being. This house is sold, and our family will live there. My brother took out the video he had just recorded, and some of the angles were particularly tricky. In a short paragraph, you can see how miserable they are. Lin Wanqiu watched the video without blinking, as if this was her victory chip. As long as you get divorced, I will immediately post the video I recorded today to the public account to let everyone know. Lin Hongyan shook his head repeatedly. Brother, it is impossible for Heian and I to divorce. Even if you kill me, you can't divorce her. Lin Wanqiu took her mother to the side to whisper. After a while, they took Lin Hongyan to the bedroom to talk. I looked at my brother gratefully. Thank you for today. I will prepare delicious food for you every day in the future. He gently rubbed my head. Who said you were my sister? Don't worry, my brother will make them obedient. I told you when we first fell in love, this guy is not simple. You insist on saying that he is honest and reliable. Now you know it. I sighed deeply and really wanted to give my younger self a few slaps. A few minutes later, the three of them came out together. Lin Hongyan looked at me deeply. Marriage, I agree to divorce. Can the house be left to us? You see, our family is old, weak, sick, and disabled. Where can we move? I didn't expect him to give up like that. I thought he would struggle for a while, but in a few minutes he would change his mind about never getting divorced. Now he dares to make such an unreasonable request. This man is very realistic. I looked at him like a stranger. No, half of each person, no less. And you have to pay sweet child support. My mother-in-law looked at me pitifully. Hey Ian, your relationship is so good. Why do you have to divorce? Do you know how much divorce hurts us? I smiled and said, you don't have to get divorced. You, Lin Wanqiu, and your two grandchildren can all move out. She looked at me in disbelief, as if she had never thought that I would say such a thing. Lin Wanqiu patted the table. This house belongs to us. You only gave us a down payment of 200,000 yuan. Now we can only give 200,000 yuan. Don't be dissatisfied. After the marriage, all my brother's salary will be with you, as well as the bride price of 66,000 yuan. Their calculations are so accurate that they don't plan to pay any of the increase in value of the house in the past few years. Just in time. I also want to do the math for you. Xianshan spent a total of 129,800 on hospitalization for surgery. Sister, your son pushed this down. You should pay for it. 100,000 of them was a joint deposit, and the remaining 20,000 or so was made up by my mother. I sneered and continued, as for the bride price, you want me to withdraw it and go to court to sue. Lin Wanqiu curled her lips and whispered, the children were playing Toj. Thuran accidentally fell down. That's because you haven't taught me well and don't even have any safety awareness. I slapped her, and a red slap mark suddenly appeared on her face. Don't force me to do anything again. If your son develops like this, something big will happen sooner or later. My mother-in-law wanted to come over to help her, but my brother stopped her with a look. I took out a piece of paper with the calculated amount on it, a total of 479,800 yuan, and a monthly maintenance payment of 2,000 yuan for Xianshan. For this price, don't miss a penny, otherwise you won't be able to use this video. I remember Jia Junming's assets are tens of millions. The private money you have saved over the years is more than enough to pay for this. Glancing at Lin Hongyan, there was a trace of reluctance in his eyes. I don't know if he is reluctant to part with Xianshan or the money. I'll give you one night to think about it and reply to me before 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. My brother took me and left gracefully. At 8:30 the next morning, Lin Hongyan called. Hey Ian, I agree with the conditions you mentioned. However, we have to watch the video once and send it out on the spot. My brother nodded happily beside me. I thought for a long time and could only temporarily aggrieve Mr. Jia Junming. However, judging from the entire incident, he was not innocent. My brother is currently investigating the truth of the matter, which will be revealed to the public soon. At 9:30, everyone made an appointment to meet at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Except for the children, everyone from the two families was here. I understand, we are all on guard against each other now. My brother took his friends with him last night and edited it all night long. After playing the video in its entirety, the Lin family became more and more satisfied with it. Lin Wanqiu generously transferred 480,000 yuan, and the 200 yuan was calculated into Xianshan's alimony next month. Full stop. Oh, that's so generous. In the following procedures, everyone walked carefully, for fear that the other party would withdraw halfway. After getting the divorce certificate, both of them breathed a sigh of relief. The content of the video was posted on various platforms and instantly caused public outrage. The incident quickly spread and became a hot search topic. Even my brother did not expect that the masses would be so angry and that it would spread so quickly. The elderly and children will always be considered weak and should be protected. Some people have already begun to bully Jia Junming online. Another group of people asked to continue to explore the truth. They felt that things were not as simple as they seemed. I looked at my brother worriedly and he rubbed my head. Hey Ian, don't be afraid. I have collected the truth of the matter. It will be in the next episode. The brother received a fertility certificate from Jia Junming, which was released in the second episode. There are videos of two children bullying others, many miserable photos of children who were bullied, and helpless complaints from their parents. After all, they are children, and apart from paying some medical expenses, there is nothing they can do to them. Among them, the video of Xianshan being pushed has aroused public outrage. They simply couldn't imagine what kind of person could educate their son like this. Jia Junming was at the end, holding the paternity test certificate and fertility certificate. I am an incompetent father. I am always busy with work and seldom discipline them. It was because I was too confident about Lin Wanqiu that I gave her the opportunity to have a son with someone else. I feel deeply guilty that the two children were taught like this by her. This reversal was so big that it broke the audience's waist. They complained one after another that this reporter was too brave. If the novel dared to write like this, readers would definitely scold him to death. Now they that there must be something hateful about the poor man. A few minutes after the video was posted, Lin Hongyan called me and said, "Hey Ian, we are just a couple, why are you so cruel? Do you want our family to die?" There was a sneer on the corner of my mouth. Is this amazing? The one above didn't really happen. Your sister and your nephew did this themselves. They dared to do it but were afraid of what others would say. Lin Hongyan said in a low voice, "Can you please delete this episode for my sake?" I sneered. The moment Xianshan fell to the ground, the Lin family was already my enemy. "Sorry, Mr. Lin. We can't do this. After all, we also want to eliminate harm for the people," he said urgently. "Hey Ian, please, can you delete them all? We don't want anything now, we just want to live quietly." I hung up on him. I sat on the chair, took out my phone, clicked on the surveillance video, and watched them constantly cursing me and Xianshan. Even Lin Hongyan, he kept scolding me. There was no trace of love in his eyes, only deep hatred for me. Originally, my brother planned to release the third episode as soon as possible, but I asked him to wait. Lin Wanqiu was so scolded that she didn't even dare to go out. As soon as I go out, I will be criticized at best, and served with rotten eggs and rotten vegetables at worst. The two children were not affected at all and were fooling around heartlessly. They boarded home and opened the door by themselves to go out and play. Not long after, they returned home with eyes blank and blood all over their bodies. Lin Wanqiu was scared to death and kept checking whether there were any injuries on their bodies. Moments later, a group of people came to their home with the police. My ex-mother-in-law kept acting pathetic and would not let them take away their two children. Finally, her hands were seized by the police and they were taken to the police station. I was scrolling through Douyin when I saw someone had recorded what just happened outside and posted it on the platform. In the video, a group of children were playing on a slide. The little girl was a little scared. The two people thought she was too slow and pushed her hard. The little girl stumbled and fell down the slide several meters away. There was a bang, and blood splattered everywhere. Then came the exclamations and cries of the little girl's family. The camera followed them all the way to the door of the unit. This video instantly aroused everyone's anger, and some people have already started searching for their information. When I found that the person who recommended Cheyenne was the same as in the previous video, everyone began to condemn Lin Wanqiu, and the doors to the community were blocked. Their house was splashed with blood red paint. As long as they dare to go out, red paint will be thrown on them. But sometimes they have to admit that the paint is of the lowest quality. Their bodies are severely corroded by the paint, and they will live in pain from now on. The little girl who fell suffered multiple soft tissue injuries, a slight concussion, massive intracranial bleeding, and multiple fractures in her body. Lin Honggyuan sold his house at a low price, just enough to compensate for medical expenses, nutritional expenses, and missed work expenses. If my ex-mother-in-law hadn't taken her daughter and 2 children to kneel next to the hospital bed, the matter would not have been settled so easily. This incident was so big that Lin Honggyuan was directly fired from the company. The family could only return to the countryside in despair. Everyone who saw them shunned them like snakes and scorpions, and no one wanted to get close to them. Lin Wanqiu and her mother, who were already in poor health, became even more overwhelmed after being splashed with paint many times. The two fell ill directly on the bed, taking medicine to hang on to their lives. The 2 children can't do anything. No school is willing to take them in, so they can only sneak around in the countryside every day. Lin Wanqiu wanted to educate them well, but it was too late and she could only watch as they were taken to the juvenile detention center. All the heavy responsibilities were placed on Lin Honggyuan. In just a few years, his body was hollowed out and his head was covered with white hair, like an old man half 100 years old. Finally, I asked my brother to release the 3rd episode. It turns out that Jia Junming was indeed infertile before, and he did get the 2 children by asking friends to help. She originally wanted to raise a child to protect her from old age, but the child was raised like this by Lin Wanqiu. By chance, he found a famous doctor and was cured. Now that he has money and ability, how can he continue to help others raise their sons? The audience who saw the last one had to sigh that neither of these 2 people were good people. One was half a catty and the other was 8 tails. The companies he cooperated with terminated their contracts one after another, and the company he had worked hard for more than 10 years went bankrupt in a few months. Other companies didn't want him at all, so he had to work odd jobs to survive with huge debts. No woman is willing to marry him, and no one is willing to give him a son.